I think when it comes to business, the main lesson I've learned is just do. It's the most cliche thing ever, but it's do plus focus. Is when you unify will and agency, the dreams happen.
Wow. Yeah. You leave me speechless.
After 2 burnouts in dentistry, I asked myself, what if I could turn my struggles into stepping stones for others? That's how this podcast started. We learn from each other, going from stress to success. And with more than 60% of dental professionals facing stress or burnout, this conversation has never been more important. Let's get started.
It's so nice to see you again.
Likewise, how's everything going?
Everything is fine. I think it was like 1 year ago we were speaking.
I think so too, yeah, around about a year ago, yeah. A long time.
Yeah, you contacted me back then, and I can say that I was really surprised of your personality, because you already had a network of dentists before even starting your dental studies.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I actually started networking, about a year before I even got into dental school.
Please tell us who you are, Afeef Hadi.
Yeah. Sure thing, yeah. Hello, everyone. The name's Afeef Hadi. I'm a first-year dental student at King's College London. I started back in September. But outside of that, I'm a few other things as well. I'm also very interested in business. I used to breed parrots, and I've got many strings to my bow, as I'm sure we'll get into as well. But I think your audience is most interested in the fact that I'm, studying dentistry at King's.
Yeah, so you started in September.
That's right, yeah, September, yeah. It's been a few months.
So you've been there for 6 months now.
Oh, so, yeah, around halfway through first year.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's been great so far, an amazing learning experience. A lot of it's online, to be honest. A lot of the courses pre-recorded lectures, so we've not really been in too much. Regardless, I can't say I can complain. I've been in London as well, which has been amazing. I come from quite a rural part of the UK, so to be in the big cities has been amazing.
It's like, wow, a new phase.
Yeah, big change.
So most of your courses are online?
Yeah, most of it's online, pre-recorded lectures, so not really in too much. But when I am in, I'm mainly in for tooth waxing nowadays, so it's working on fake teeth and building up teeth from wax. So no real patients yet, but more towards end of second year, we'll see those real patients.
Yeah, wow. So do you know when you will start with your first patients?
Yeah, I think it's just towards the back end of second year, so towards May, April time next year, hopefully, if all goes well.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I studied in Sweden, in Malmö, and we started with our patients, if I remember well, because this was back in 2000. So I remember we started, our first year, but the end of the first year. So...
Oh, wow, okay, that's good. So you got some earlier experience.
Yeah, that's good, because I think that's one of the nervous things.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
You entered a little bit about your business, so we will go into that, because you already had a business before you started dental school.
Dental school. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What kind of business was that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I actually started my first business back when I was around 14 years old. So I used to have, 2 pet parrots at home, actually, in a one cage. And summertime came around, we put in a nesting box, and they ended up having chicks. So these 2 parrots now have 4 chicks, or 3 or 4 chicks, right? So of course you've got too many to keep inside. So went online, ended up listing them for sale online, and people were interested, and I sold them. So I thought, I like animals, I like pets, so there's an opportunity here. So then me and my father, we went out and we actually built a couple of aviaries, big aviaries in the back garden. And then from that, I had many parrots over 2 years, between the ages of 14, 15 to 17. I had maybe 20 parrots over the years, and I used to breed parrots. I used to have them, and you have chicks and sell the chicks on, and it was a really amazing experience, regardless, because I like birds and like animals anyway, but also to get my hands dirty with speaking to clients, negotiating, listing things online. It was really good experience. I also used to go to auctions, Parrot auctions, believe it or not. Christina did Parrot auctions in the UK and Parrot auctions, yeah. So there was a breed
that existed.
Yeah, many people don't. Many people don't. So it was an amazing world to get into, and amazing people as well. I got to make some really good friends off the back of that. So that was my first business actually, and I knew around about last year that I was going to come to university in summer, of course, and winter time was coming. So I decided, to wind it up and kind of push that back and actually list them all online. So they all went in the space of a few weeks' time actually. So then that left me for about 3 or 4 weeks with nothing to do, just in school, and I couldn't keep myself still, so I had to do something else, and that's when I started my current business, which is a dental copy. That's one of the businesses I have nowadays, and that's like an SEO business. So we help clinics rank higher on Google, dental clinics, through writing blogs. Through use of keywords and targeted analysis, we kind of help people rank higher on Google, which is what I have going nowadays. Also working on some other exciting projects nowadays, moving forwards, especially in the whole AI voice space. So exciting times to come.
Yeah, but how come you went from Parrots to dental?
Okay, yeah, that's quite a transition, isn't it? So, I realized I wanted to do something more dental focused because that was my aim to go into dental school, of course, right? So this is around about a year.
You knew. You have known that for many years that you wanted.
No. So this business I'm on about in terms of dental copy, the SEO business, started around a year ago today. So this was year 13 or just before applying to university, around that time. So at that point, I knew I was going to get in dentistry. I knew I wanted to do dentistry when I was about 15, 16, but this is more when I was 17, I started this business.
Yeah.
And then I actually found a friend of mine through LinkedIn, funnily enough, called Tristan. Guy over in Liverpool. He's a second year student. We had a chat. He mentioned the idea. I liked the idea, and then it was quite naive of me maybe. But off the back of that, we ended up speaking more and starting off the business. So a lot of grit, a lot of determination, hard work. But thankfully, it worked and it paid off. So that's how I got to know about dental SEO blogs, because my friend Tristan, I met him through LinkedIn.
Okay, so it was through him you entered the dental field. But
yeah.
Are you still working on that project?
Yeah, I'm still working on that, yeah. So less time is involved in that nowadays. Like I said, more looking towards the future. I do lots of internships at companies, trying to speak to people, get to events. And also, like I said before, I'm working on the next big thing, which I think will be AI voice and maybe the role of an AI receptionist or something in a clinic. So it's still to come, still work in progress, but that could be the next thing that I do nowadays. So my involvement in that first business is reduced now significantly.
Yeah. Wow. So it sounds to me that, or no, I will not say what I feel.
Go on.
I will ask you, like, where do you see yourself after the dental studies? Do you see yourself as, I know it's difficult to say now, and I mean, we change, we evolve all the time, so we can't say what will happen in 5 years. But right now, where do you see yourself after the dental studies? Yeah,
great question. I get asked this all the time because I'm quite an unconventional student in what I do, right? So, like I said, I'm very early on in my journey, 6 months out of 5 years. So I'm not seeing the real patient, don't know anything about root canal or endo and all the rest of the nitty-gritty that a dentist has to learn. So right now, I would say that my position is probably quite naive, but as of right now, what I want to do probably is to go on to maybe change the industry. I want to have some significant impact in the way that dentistry is practiced worldwide. And that could be in one of two avenues I see. One is clinical and become an extremely good clinician, maybe do something like oral surgery or prosthodontics and become a world leader in that and kind of innovate and do research alongside clinical practice down that more conventional avenue, arguably. Alternatively, he may well be more likely, and probably sounds like from what I'm saying now, is to go into business and kind of revolutionize the dental business landscape. I think there's lots of room for innovation and especially optimization or efficiency in dentistry. A lot of things aren't very efficient, and I think with my, let's say, entrepreneurial mindset, I can apply certain things and come up with certain solutions to problems that exist in the dental practice today. So I will probably do that alongside dental school as well. maybe when I graduate, I don't do too much clinical work and go more full on into that whole business landscape. And then maybe similar to that whole optimization efficiency thing, that could well look like building a corporate dental corporate in the future as well. I'm also very interested in corporate finance and, getting private equity, venture capital, that whole space. So it may well be that I help bring that venture capital, private equity money to dentistry and apply it in a way that's not been done before, because I see massive potential in dentistry. And I don't think there's a match up there in terms of actual dollars or pounds invested into this space.
Wow, amazing. You went from Parrots to to solving dental challenges. Wow, I can see you have such a big potential of many things to help dentists.
Thank you so much.
So what do you see is the biggest challenge in dentistry?
Yeah. And so I can tell you more from a business perspective, having worked with lots of clinics and all the rest of it. Clinically, I'm not too sure, but from a business perspective, like I said before, there's a lot of inefficiencies that exist in dental practice, Christina, right? So, for example, when it comes to diary scheduling into the patient diary, the way that's done right now is through a receptionist who answers the phone and then puts a thing into the diary, right? There's many issues that exist there. First of all, around 35 to 40% of calls to a dental practice are unanswered, right? So that means that all the marketing spend, all the rest of the stuff you've done before, a lot of that actually goes wasted, unfortunately, when you actually have someone call up because it's not answered. Secondly, when the receptionist does answer, they're oftentimes very untrained. The front of house staff at a dental clinic aren't the best trained to deal with customers. They can oftentimes be nurses as well, right? They don't have that sales training or communications training as well. So what could happen is that you get down, let's say, Dr. Patient John or Patient M is in the diary, no real information about where he comes from, his phone number, his address, his details, or anything else. So there's very poor data acquisition from patients, secondly. And thirdly, when you do book into the diary, Christina, in this situation, it's not very optimized. You can just book in anywhere. I'm not sure if you've heard of the concept of diary zoning, which is where you have like certain blocks of, let's say, a type of treatment, and that can make you more efficient because you can get in the flow. Let's say instead of having to do a patient examination, then endo, and then let's say an extraction, you have, let's say, one morning of just extractions, and then an afternoon of just new patient examinations. So you get into a bit of a flowing rhythm. I think just in the fact that calling it and booking an appointment, there's 3 clear ways that that's inefficient. I also think that, for example, paying your staff and paying your different suppliers is also very inefficient. There's no clear way of, or no clear automated way of initiating those wages and invoices to be paid. And I also think there's lots and lots of room to be done in terms of patient notes and optimizing that, because that takes up a lot of time as well, writing patient notes. So lots and lots of ideas. I could bore you for hours upon hours with all my wacky and new inventions, but that's a couple of things for you.
That leads us to the next question. Like, how do you find time to all you? What strategy do you have to find time for all these things?
Yeah, sure. So
dental school is difficult, or you have not really started the most difficult parts yet. But how does a day look like for you? What strategy do you have?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because like I said, I do work many jobs. I have businesses and university as well. Can be quite hard to manage. In all honesty, Christina, our biggest strength, the biggest secret is that I use a calendar, and every single thing goes into the calendar, whether it's small, whether it's big. Even if I have to write an email to someone, it comes out as a task in the calendar. And I have a picture of right here. It's all color coded with different things, and it means that I'm aware ahead of the time and the day before what needs to be done. I then work inside these blocks, meaning that my time is far more targeted and specific, because I can then go and do everything at that time. And over time as well, Christina, you become better at finding out how much time needs to be allocated for these different things. And it means that you can kind of work through that as well. I also have quite an unconventional way to sleep. I sleep twice a day, and that means I can kind of split up my tasks, in between almost 2 zones in a day as well. So I think calendar and sleep are there.
To hear that, I remember you asked me about that last time, and it had a name that I looked up afterwards.
Biphasic sleep.
Yeah. I do that, but I do it naturally. Like, I have a lot of energy in the morning. Mm-hmm. I drink 2 cups of coffee as well. I'm creative, but then in the middle of the day, I feel a drop around 3-4ish. And now when I work more from home, I take it easy. Sometimes I sleep for 15 minutes, but most of the times I'm just like in a relaxing meditative mode, and then I get for another coffee, and then I'm back. I'm not as creative as I was in the morning. I realize that I'm mostly creative there, but I go back and I can work a few hours more. When are you more creative?
Yeah, mine's kind of the opposite actually. So I'm a classic teenager, I guess. Early mornings out for me. So I get up a bit later, and then I do normally university work or meetings or work that I have to be there for. I have to sit in front of a camera, I have to be present somewhere and actually do the work because it forces me, to be active. And then I come back around 4 to 5 o'clock, maybe sleep about 90 minutes, which is one circadian cycle, one sleep cycle, and then I get up and then I work till the early hours of the morning, maybe till like 3, 4 in the morning, and then I go sleep again. So it's something I've been doing for about 3 years, and I find it works very well for me. So I think I'm not here to recommend or condone, but it works for me.
Don't do it at home.
Yeah, don't try it home. Yeah, handle with care. Would not recommend. That's one caveat I have to say.
Like we have to listen to our own body. Our body and mind will tell us when we're on top and when it's so. We cannot just follow another person's recipe. But how many hours do you sleep in total then?
I sleep around 6 to 7 hours normally, but it's high quality sleep. This is high quality sleep. There's lots of a greater portion of my sleep is deep sleep, so it kind of, from my understanding, makes up for it.
Yeah, so you have high quality sleep. Can you see that? Can you track that?
Yeah, I got the tracker and the watch and everything, so it lets me know the REM cycles and all the rest of it. So.
Yeah, because that's super important. Many people don't know that it is a system that's activated while we have this deep sleep. The lymphatic system that removes the toxins from the brain. So as long as we have that, we can think clearly.
That's the most important for longevity. Yeah, for longevity, that's the most important.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No problem. Well, so that's, yeah. But when do you wake up? So if you would have patients in a clinic or if you have studies starting at 8 in the morning?
Yeah, we normally start at 9 a.m. Normally 9 a.m. So I try to get around hopefully 4.5 hours at night time, then around an hour and a half, 2 hours during the daytime.
Do you drink coffee?
No coffee, no caffeine. I only drink pure water.
Yeah? Wow.
Yeah. I'm still young, Christina. No need for coffee yet.
How old are you? Can we ask your age?
I'm 18.
18. Oh my God. You're so young and so clever.
Thank you so much.
How did your business interest start? Have you seen, are your parents business?
Yeah, so not all actually. My dad's a chemical engineer. He works on like car batteries and stuff like that for electric cars. And then my mum doesn't work. She's actually a housewife, which I found to be amazing for my childhood. I know no real family close to me in the business space. Most of the family friends that we had growing up were also doctors rather than entrepreneurs. Most of that came from within, to be honest. So it's kind of anomalous. I realized during lockdown as well. I read a lot of philosophy during lockdown. I read a lot of Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, maybe some existentialist philosophy. I shouldn't read at the age of 14, but that kind of shaped my worldview and decided that I need to have more of an impact. And you got to be, Nietzsche has this concept of Übermensch, which is make your own Superman or become your own person. And that kind of made me realize that one thing I'm very good at is figuring out how active systems work. And then I realized I should capitalize upon that and, exploit that because that's the strength I had, right? So I spent a lot of time then diving into the whole business world. I've also been investing in the stock market since I was like 15 maybe. And that really gave me some experience regarding money and how everything works. And I guess the natural progression from there was to start my own business, to be honest. So it was not something I decided a single day, but I realized I wanted to have an impact. And I think business, or I guess entrepreneurship as a whole, means you can cause real change in many people's lives at a large scale. Although the benefit is not as direct as, let's say, a surgeon, it's far more broad and wide-reaching in my opinion. So I realized it's the best way I could give back almost in a way to society and do my part, as it were.
So did you start listening to podcasts, or did you start to read things that inspired you into this, or what was the main inspiration?
Yeah. So I used to read, like I said, I used to read quite a lot, to be honest. I've always read a lot since I was quite young, but yeah, books really were the main stimuli. And then off the back of that, more recently, I've started having more conversations. Like I said, around a year ago, the whole networking thing started, and I moved away from books more towards in-person or online one-to-one conversations, because I realized the knowledge I want isn't always in books, because most of my insight that I'm looking for is very, very specific and very niche to the dental industry, right? So not all the time you can get that from books. So I switched from books to in-person conversations, and that's really been the transition, really, in terms of how I got this inspiration, how I got this knowledge as well. But I was always kind of an outlier. I was not really around business or around this whole stuff too much. I kind of did it myself.
Amazing. But it's so important to rest as well, to not have anything in your calendar. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking, Christina, because the audience are probably thinking I'm some mad kid who's gonna burn out by the age of 20. So no, I think it's very important.
I'm a little bit afraid.
Don't worry, I have both sides to the boat. So to me, I actually find speaking to people is a really good way to switch off. I like having conversations, and to me, it's a really, really good way to release that serotonin, oxytocin that is very good for you. So I try to engage as much as possible in like genuine, meaningful conversation with people. Just speak to friends and family and people around me that I value. And that to me is a good way to kind of step back and have a third person perspective on what I'm doing. So conversation is one thing I like to engage in. Secondly, I also like to run. I think run is really good for the endorphins. It releases a lot of those neurochemicals, and it's a really high intensity way to have exercise. So although it's not the most chill and relaxed thing, it is something which I think can really help you get the opposite or flip end of the spectrum of work and then relaxation. That's one thing. I also walk as well, Christina. I pretty much walk every single day for the past 3 or 4 years as well, for about 30 to 40 minutes. So that's also something I do to switch off and to try and leave myself to myself. No music, no one else by me normally. It's just me and myself and just thinking. So that's running and walking. And lastly, for sports, I play squash as well. I play squash for Kings, actually. And then sometimes I also read as well. But they're the main things I do to kind of switch off. Conversations and then sports.
Yeah.
And then books.
Wow. So you put that in your calendar too?
That's what's in the calendar, of course it is. I have zones or blocks where it's meant to be blank, but I write down, relax or run or walk. But yeah.
That's great. So I was thinking, what excites you most?
It's an interesting question. To be honest, nowadays, like I said, it's being involved in running active systems, meaning things that are moving and fluid, but you have the control and structure over. That can be oftentimes for me nowadays in the form of business, but it can also be in the form of dialogue, right? So just as an anecdote, I find real joy and pleasure in figuring out how things work and how I can use them to help benefit others. So just as one, I guess, example, because it sounds really weird if I thought, what the hell is active system, right? I had a friend of mine who wanted to get into, let's say, sales, for example, right? He was very interested in the whole sales space. I also knew a company who were interested in hiring or finding someone in sales. So I was able to realize there were two, I guess, nodes here that needed connecting, and I was able to connect the two in a system, right? That meant that he was able to get a job, the company was able to get someone to work for him who was very passionate and enthusiastic. And I guess that's an example of an active system in the real world. Things that are moving and constantly adapting and forming links between point A and point B, even though at first glance are related. Things like that really get me going. So I also have nowadays, I'm actually launching my own podcast soon, hopefully. It's going to come out the next month or so. And as part of that, we have to speak to editors and sponsors and stakeholders and, virtual assistants over in East Asia. And it's really, really interesting. It excites me actually to figure out how the different things work together. So I'd say what excites me most is figuring out and exploiting, or let's say using, active systems in the day-to-day.
So being a dentist is very much being there and with the nitty-gritty small things.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? I know it's difficult, but that's maybe a good thing to think about, that it would be good to have patients already in the first year.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I think you're very right there. Like I did before doing dentistry, I did lots of work experience shadowing, max fax surgeons, and then of course general dentists, private dentists, emergency dentists, special care dentists, and I saw the whole range of things that dentists can do. And you are right, to be honest. A lot of it is quite monotonous. You see the same patient again and again and again, or a similar type of patient, and they come in and you do a similar type of work. And that is a very valid point, which is why I say I might be more drawn towards the whole entrepreneurship space, right? However, I do acknowledge that there is still a massive value or massive benefit in dentistry, which is that you're able to see and push yourself to how far you want to go. It's a career which offers a lot of flexibility. It's not very structured. Like you have medicine, graduate, 2 years FD, 8 years specialization, you become a consultant. In dentistry, it's far more upon you, it's far more fluid and I guess dependent on the clinician. So although I very much agree that the average dentist, or let's say the most of dentistry is that, I think you can still push yourself to do something a bit more than that. You can go and look into material science and become an amazing prosthodontist, or you can go and look into the whole osseointegration process and get very deep into that and become an implant surgeon. And I would argue, at the very least, those things are more challenging or more stimulating, as it were, than, let's say, a general dentist. So that's why I think if I was to be a dentist, I may well be a very specialist, or I guess niche type of dentist, where you have that challenge and that massive range of cases, so you have very complex patients that you have to kind of adapt and deal with on the fly. But I definitely agree that the majority of dentistry is not very active system orientated, so it will be hard to negotiate that alongside my own interests as well.
But anyway, it doesn't matter what decision you will take in the future, it will give you the knowledge how it is to be a dentist as well.
Yeah, regardless.
That will benefit you.
Very valuable. Yeah.
To the system. Yeah. So have you felt that you have been close to burnout?
I think I was, to be honest, back when I was doing my GCSE exams, or when I was, I think, around 16 years old. I was probably on the verge of burnout. I was doing probably too much work than I needed to. And it was quite tough, to be honest. I think I realized at the point where I just couldn't work anymore. It was not going in. So around 4 weeks before my exams, all of a sudden I just clicked and I was reading, but nothing was getting to my brain. So it was a big issue, right? Because you're before the biggest exams in your life. They're looking at you down the barrel of the gun, and you can't think. So that was when I actually started doing walks. I started walking a lot more after that point. I needed to switch off and take a step back, and I realized my own limitation there. So that took around 4 or 5 days of just walking and thinking a lot and taking a step back from studies. But luckily I caught it then. If I had still tried to push through that block, it might not have worked, and it would have meant that my exam results were far different to what they were. So in all honesty, that was when I was probably closest, and from then I've been able to manage, I guess, toe the line and negotiate that balance fairly well, since with all the rest of the things I do alongside, university and business and everything, that was probably the closest I got. And then also during my GCSE exams, right in the middle, I was in a pretty bad car accident. So you were going towards an exam, and then actually coming back from an exam, right in the middle of the exam week, and our car went into a ditch. We were going 60 miles per hour, and then a whole different thing happened there. Luckily, me and my mother were completely fine. The car was destroyed. It got written off. It has to be taken away, and that was a really humbling moment for me, I think. It made me realize that there's bigger things in life than exams and academia. And I think the realization is take a bit more of a step back and kind of, take things from a different perspective, really. So that car crash really also, I guess, reinforced the belief that burnout does exist, and there's bigger things at stake than just exams or academia or school.
Yeah. Did that make you a little bit spiritual? Like, the universe wanted to tell me something?
I did believe that at the time, because like I say, this car is rolled over 360 degrees, it's gone into a ditch, it's destroyed, right? The car is absolutely gone, demolished, so you had to get towed and basically scrapped for metal. So compared to that car, and me and my mother, we were completely fine, not a single scratch on our body. So I think there was something there. I am quite a religious person. I think there was some messages, some meaning in there as well. And the car, it was a Toyota, right? So you have the badge from the car. I still keep it in my room whenever I'm working, so I can look up to it and remember. I almost died 3 years ago, so I definitely do believe there was some message in there, some lesson in there for sure, and I'm very grateful that I did make it out alive, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we need those reminders to.
For sure.
Yeah, because you are a person who push yourself. You push yourself towards limits. But I'm so surprised that you at the same time have control over this balance. Like, I should sleep as well, I should train as well. So how did you find that balance? Because we all know it, but how come you can apply it? What do you think?
Yeah, so my approach is very unconventional, Christina. So I actually read a lot of research articles back when I was going through the whole, like, figuring out where my life is and what I want to do. I came to the conclusion, like you did, that I'm going to be working very hard, very intensely for long periods of time, doing unconventional things. So I knew from a very, very early point that I had to kind of get this in order. Otherwise, it was just going to mean that I could not achieve what I wanted to achieve. I read a lot of research articles, like I said, on sleep and happiness and longevity. I looked a lot into neurochemistry as well, and I guess I took the very empirical approach of literally going to the research articles themselves, the source of the research, and finding out what they said, making my own interpretations from that, cross-correlating that with other people's analysis through the form of YouTube videos or summary papers and everything, and then applying those real empirical lessons and teachings into my life. For example, I knew that walking was very good. I then went away and read a bunch of research articles on how walking affects the brain. I looked at a lot of the neurochemicals associated with happiness, right? Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, testosterone, and how they fluctuated and how you can improve and maximize those, and dopamine feedback loop and hedonic adaptation model. All these different concepts I learnt probably around 15, 16 years old myself through research. And then the real benefit, or the real unique thing, was I didn't just read this and leave it. I actually applied this to my life as well. So
I think apply, because many people know it. We know that we get smarter. We know that it's good for you, but very few people do it. So what made you? what made you do it?
What made me do it? I think a lot of it was mindset, Christine. Like I said, I realized that for what I want to do, it's a non-negotiable. It has to be done. So I would say sheer force of will, to be honest. It was the fact that I did it and I succeeded, or I didn't and I failed. So to me, I think, as I'm sure you can probably gather, in extremes, and like very much like be or end or. So like it's either this or nothing. So I was like, I either fix up my life and become a balanced person and become this person who can live in a sustainable way, or I just become a normal person and live a very chill life, right? And so I guess for me, it was that mindset that it has to be done and there's no alternative. This very, I guess, brash mentality that meant that I had to apply it. So I would say, in answer to your question, Christina, what made me do it? My mindset. I think that's probably something which is different to most people. My mentality was really, I guess, what set me apart there in terms of my will and my understanding of myself was what pushed me to actually embark upon that whole journey of discovery and application as well.
Amazing. What is success to you?
What is success? Love the questions, Christina. Love the questions. To me, success has two parts. There's an internality and externality, right? The internal success and external success. To me, internal success is just measured by, very simple, it's measured by how easy you sleep at night, right? When you're alone in your bed, what thoughts are going through your head, and do you have a good conscience, right? That to me is what matters the most beyond every other material thing, right? Everything else can go to the side, but internally between you and you, are you satisfied by who you are, right? Externally, I think it matters a lot as well. I think respect to me is important. I think I value my success. I put my success based on the respect of people I value as well. So I think internally is consciousness and externally is respect. I think with those two things, if you have those in balance, it means you're A, at peace with yourself, and B, respected by good people. Because if you seek to respect bad people, you're going to have a bad conscience, right? So it's an insular system. It means that you seek out and spend time with and gain lessons from and be valuable to people that are also of good conscience. And it means that you can have your place in the world without being some deep mystic, I guess some Sufi or some like monk who goes and lives in the mountains all day long, because otherwise you're isolating yourself, right? I don't think that's success to me. I think it's being very integrated in society, but also being at peace with yourself. It's a form of higher independence, as it were. It's independence without need for isolation or interdependence. That to me is success.
Wow. One big problem today is that we all are scrolling a lot on our mobile. Do you have a problem with that?
In all honesty, Christina, I've been quite privileged or blessed by the fact that my parents kind of told me, and I kind of came to the realization that social media wasn't a good thing at quite a young age. So I only got Instagram when I was 17, so about a year ago now. And I don't have TikTok, I don't really use any of the other social media platforms. I use WhatsApp and YouTube mainly. I am, of course, guilty of it sometimes, but I try as much as possible to stay away from my phone. I use my phone in almost all situations as a communications device, as a comms device. I speak to the people that work for me, I speak to people I work with, and I speak to my friends and family through WhatsApp and through my phone. Most of the functions I try to live in the real world, so I don't watch movies really, I don't really watch any media, and that means I can quite ground in what I do, and it means I can live in the present. I agree, I am aware that's quite unconventional, to be honest, but it's something I try to live by for a long time, because I think the dangers of this whole social media space are apparent, and you can't run away from it, right? There's severe issues that exist with the whole social media landscape, and I just realized pretty early on that I don't want to take part in that. In all honesty, I know I'm sounding like this person is perfect and everything, but I don't really struggle too much with the whole scrolling thing, because I try to live in the present and do more. Although I acknowledge it is a big issue that really faces most people my age today.
Yeah, you're amazing. Like, what is your weakness? You have to have some kind of weakness.
That's a good point. I think it's very important to be self-aware. I think that one of my biggest weaknesses is the fact that I'm not necessarily the most relatable person, which is not really our standard weakness, to be honest. But it means that in normal, typical interactions, I can come across quite intense, and it means people can oftentimes have that wrong impression of me. I think that's quite a bad thing, in all honesty. It sounds like I'm saying I'm better than everyone else, but I'm really not. It just means that it's harder for me to kind of get an understanding of or be understood by most people, especially my age, and that is an issue. I'm not saying I've got no friends or anything. I'm just saying that when it comes to, I guess, new people that I'm meeting, it can be kind of hard to form that bond and form that link. Also, I think that my communication can improve. I think that sometimes I speak quite fast. I mumble some words, and I need to be better at my enunciation and diction. That's something I think I'm working on and will become better by time as well. But I think there's two clear weaknesses there for sure, in terms of relatability and enunciation.
How do you feel that you could improve these things?
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of relatability, I've spent a lot more time, especially in recent weeks or months. It could be with people my age. A lot of my time in the past was spent by people far older than me, mentors and people I'm learning from. And I realized that although that taught me a lot of lessons, I became like a 30-year-old guy trapped in an 18-year-old body, right? So it was a bit of a disconnect. So I was spending more time with people my age, and of course in university you have a load of new people, right? You have a whole consortium of people that are your age that are, all in the same boat as you. Spending more time with them, understanding, how they work and how everyone else, kind of works and functions. And that's been a good way to develop the relatability and spending more time being grounded and less business, less work, and more just chilling with friends. And when it comes down to communication, I try to spend more time doing public speaking and getting myself out there, entering a bunch of like pitch competitions and hackathons and stuff like that. And that's really been a really good learning experience for me to improve my public speaking and communication skills. But yeah, I think when it comes to communication, the main thing is just taking a breath and slowing it down.
Yeah. So, do you have a strategy to connect with people? Because you were the one who connected with me. So, how did you find me? How do you find people? And what strategy do you have?
Yeah, great question. I have like a whole workflow, as dentists would appreciate. So, I mean, I started off on LinkedIn, to be honest. The reason I chose LinkedIn was because it's a platform in which there's lots and lots of people in the dental business space or entrepreneurial space doing things a bit differently, a bit unconventionally. They're all very active on there, or oftentimes they're all on there quite regularly. They're posting, and crucially, they are not approached by students anywhere near as often as on Instagram or as on a TikTok, let's say, for example, and any of the social platforms. So it means that you have the benefit of being one of the only people who reach out to these dental professionals or dental business people, because you're kind of unique in that regard. Also, LinkedIn, Christine, is very good because so few people post on it, right? The actual level of engagement on these posts is very high, but the number of posts is very low. So out of the 1 billion people who use LinkedIn, around 1% posts regularly. So it means that any post you do gets pushed out to far more people. Whereas on Instagram, you're competing with a lot of bots and a lot of people that are, pushing out pointless content or content that is tuned and honed for the algorithm. On LinkedIn, you have the benefit or the luxury of not having to deal with as many people as many people there, right? So that's one benefit. So how would I actually go about using that LinkedIn platform to go and reach out to people? To me, a lot of it, Christina, was posting. I built a profile, did the standard, setting a nice profile picture with your face, a good caption or a good title saying dental student at this university or future dentist or dental applicant, and then fill out a basic profile saying who you are and what you've done, and then reaching out to people that, to be honest, Christine, the first 300, 400 connections, just searching up the word dentist and connecting with anyone that came up, because the benefit of that is that it tunes and hones your network to those dentists, which is more unique and which is more, I guess, refined to what you want. Otherwise, you'd be with anyone, right? You'd be with any person on LinkedIn, full stop. But if you type in the word dentist and have more dentists in your network, LinkedIn will push you dental content and it will recommend dental people to you. So I've spent a lot of time networking with a load of people on there, just spamming connections basically for some weeks, to be honest, to build up that base of credibility. Then I started posting a lot. Maybe I've done about 20 posts so far, and that really builds your name and builds your face and awareness of who you are in the whole dental circles, right? Because then you're seen posting regularly and they know who you are. So I guess build up set up a profile and then send out a bunch of connections and then with dentists and then start posting. From there, the rest is far more natural. People will come to you, but oftentimes you will see people engaging with your posts that you find interesting, and then it's a matter of messaging them. So I've also refined the messaging sequence quite a lot. Initially, I used to have a very low response rate, maybe of 10-15%. Now that's gone up to maybe 80% because I've already built a brand and I know what to say. It's very useful when it comes to converting those calls, as it were, to actual, one-to-one conversation. So the question then becomes, what do you say in this message, right? What do you say to the student as someone who's a kid reaching out to someone who's worth tens of millions of pounds? A lot of it has been approaching it with the position of subversion, of kind of letting yourself be a student and saying you're curious. That to me has worked very well. Saying you're a student and want to learn is always a good shot, because most people want to help out, and if you can say you want to be helped, people will reciprocate. People will appreciate that as well. So I would say it's setting up a profile, setting up a credible source or platform as well, and then reaching out and using that as a way to learn from people. But that's kind of the whole system, as it were.
Yeah. The most interesting people are the ones who show interest in other people.
Yeah,
so that's that's a very good strategy there. But then when they speak with you, they realize that they learn from you instead.
No, I'm sure. Christina, you taught me far more than I've learned from you. Don't worry.
Now it's just some experiences. You're still 18. That's where
Until a time catch-up.
But you're still there. With this velocity you have, you will pass us all. So what recommendation could you give to other young people who, or dentists who want to have a business beside dentistry or have a passive income? Because sometimes I have talked about one situation when my son got sick and I was the only dentist at my clinic. I realized how vulnerable we are with just being a dentist at the clinic. What advice would you give there to dentists who want to start some side business?
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned, of course, being the only dentist there, but of course, our whole profession relies on a hand, right? So if you get a hand injury, then the work unfortunately stops. Yeah. In the UK, dentists are also self-employed, so there's no employee benefits as well. So it's a big consideration to be had, right? I think when it comes to passive income, I mean, of course, I'm 18, so caveat, I'm not a financial planner or anything, I'm not a dentist, but this is just my understanding and take of the whole financial sphere. So this is not advice, it's just my opinion. I think that investing is very, very important, to be honest. I think first and foremost, when people graduate, is they're a student and then all of a sudden they're a dentist earning a lot of money all at once. So it can be very easy to kind of live up to that and have lifestyle inflation. I would say that it's very, very important, something I've done personally as well, is to set up a rainy day fund of at least 6 months, meaning you have that period, like you said, if you're off work, if you get injured, you can have that buffer zone. If you don't, then it can, like you said, you're very vulnerable and you're kind of living from hand to mouth. In actual fact, I think around 60 to 70% of Americans earning over £100,000 a year, $100,000 a year, live, from paycheck to paycheck. This is a very sad fact, but people don't really understand how money works, and it can be very easy to get caught up in money and not realize to ground yourself. So first and foremost, it's imperative before any business, before any other thing, you have that 6 month buffer of cash in the bank, which means you can kind of get through those hard times. Secondly, I would say that when it comes to passive income, to me, right now, the best investment is just the stock market. So the S&P 500 and then some amount in commodities, i.e. gold. That's my current balance. I don't really invest in bonds or anything. I invest in the S&P, pretty much an index fund. I personally select my own stocks, but I would not recommend that. I would say you invest in an index fund and let that take over and have some of that investment in some commodity like gold. But beyond that, of course, that's only going to give you so much, Christine. It's not going to supplement your income, or it's not going to make you able to retire very early. I think when it comes to business, the main lesson I've learned is just do. It's the most cliche thing ever, but it's do plus focus. I use the analogy of a laser, or I guess the anecdote of a laser. The imagery of a laser, which is just extreme focus on one thing for an extended period of time. Whatever it is, you will get through and burn through what you're doing, right? Most people in the modern world, they can't unify their will, i.e. what they want to do, with what they actually do. It's when you unify will and agency that dreams happen, right? And that dreams become reality. So people have great thoughts, incredible will or intent, and they don't do anything. Or people have a lot of action, they do lots of things, but they don't know why they're doing it, right? To do those two things at once is what needs to be done, right? And that is the biggest takeaway I think anyone can have, dentist or not, at any walk of life, business or not, any endeavor in life. To unify will and agency should be the end goal, or should be the first thought you have to get to your end goal. When you combine those two things, will and agency, the rest becomes easy. And the problem is, Christina, especially in business, let's go down to the business dental example. The dentists that I've spoken to and want to get into business have a lot of will, they have a lot of thoughts and ideas, right? But they are very scared to actually do. And the only way you learn is through doing in business. Yeah. In a way, you can do courses and you can do this postgraduate, PG, postgraduate courses and MBAs and all the rest of this stuff. But to me, that is no substitute for the real world experience. And you will fail. I guarantee you will fail. My first business was not a success. The whole parrot breeding thing was not a walk in the park. And there are lots of challenges you had to overcome. But it also will work, So it will fail, but it will also work. It's a paradox. You keep on going at it, and eventually, no matter what you're trying to do, you will evolve and adapt and refine your strategy. And it's an inevitability. It's a law of the universe, as it were, that with enough intentionality, whatever you're trying to do will work. Not necessarily the same thing, but evolution and adaptation of that will come to fruition. So I would say more generalist advice is unify will and agency. Understand what you want and act upon it, and make sure the incongruence. And in the business example, have that cash reserve, have those investments. But then I would also encourage any dentist, because you have such a unique understanding of dentistry that no one else really has in the world. I would say the dental industry needs entrepreneurs. It needs people who can think outside the box and find innovative solutions to their problems, and find ways to solve that through doing, not thinking.
Wow. Yeah. You leave me speechless. Yeah, that's so true. If you have seen my post, I speak a lot about burnout because I have been through it several times. And there are 9 characteristics. I never remember all the 9 at once. But one of the things that people that have easier or high risk to have burnout. They are people pleasers. They cannot say no, and they want to be liked by everyone. How do you stand?
Yeah, so it's a very good point. Earlier on I mentioned that to me it's very important to have respect, right?
Yeah.
And one part of that,
when you said respect.
yeah, one part of that can be perceived as just wanting to be respected by everyone, right? I think that's very wrong. I think to be liked by all is to mean that you really are loved by none, right? I think that as someone doing anomalous things, and as anyone doing anomalous things will come to realize and will have to learn, you will not be appreciated by most people, full stop, right? It's a very lonely world society out there, right? When you're on your own and when you're doing these unconventional things, anomalous things, you will not be understood, right? They try and seek the respect or admiration or, I guess appreciation from most people is a vain endeavor. It's not worthwhile. It means you cannot do what you want to do and you're stuck in the past. Like you said, you're a people pleaser. You can't say no. And that's something, in all honesty, you mentioned weaknesses. I used to do that maybe a couple of years ago. I wanted to be liked by everyone. And very soon, after a lot of difficulty, a lot of self-reflection, I came to realize the fact that that was the case. And it made me think about how important that is to me. And that respect I mentioned is only from people that respect you as well. It's got to be a two-way thing. And it's got to be respected by the right people as well. So you cannot live a life where you're anomalous, where you are liked by all. This just will not happen. You look at any significant person in history who's done something significant. Sure, you can hold an image of someone who's a good person, but there will always be hate and envy and all these bad things that are associated with your success. And it's a big part of maturity and growing up and realizing that can't be what you prioritize all the time. So you mentioned a very, very good point there, Christina. So lesson I had to learn the hard way. I wish someone told me earlier, but you will always be misunderstood. Even at the age of 16, 17, 18, if you're doing things that are unconventional, people will find a way to pull you down, which is, I guess, quite harsh or cruel, when you got a kid trying to do this stuff and he's being told not to and being pulled down by people around him. And that is just the way it is, it has been this way, it will be, it's the way people are. So I think the point there to be made is that that's a fact of humanity. You need to realize that that's not something you should work towards. And you need to be very careful and very focused with who you get respect from.
Great point. There is a lot of problems in NHS and burnout.
Yeah.
Dentists have to see a lot of patients.
For sure, yeah.
What solution do you see there?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Actually, I was recently invited to like a dentistry.co.uk or FMC event over in the Mayfair Hotel. This was a big point of discussion, actually. How do we fix this, pit of despair we're kind of in? I think it's very apparent that one thing that needs to be done is a reform to that NHS contract, right? There needs to be a new way of doing things. And of course, everyone says that, and then the dentist says there needs to be change. But what actually is that change? I think the way the dentists are compensated needs to change significantly. The whole UDA system for a long time has been said that it's not working. I think dentists are incentivized to treat based on efficiency rather than efficiency of speed rather than efficiency of care. And that is a very dangerous system to be in because it means that you can't provide that, DDC principle number one, right? Put patients' best interest first. That is the groundwork and bedrock of what dentists should do. And the current NHS climate means it's harder to do that. Not impossible, but it's harder to do that. And it means that the dentists are incentivized maybe to not necessarily do that. So what I would say in regards to that is definitely have a reform and change in the way the dentists are incentivized so that it is for prevention and for the patient's best interests rather than for pure efficiency. I think there are a lot of issues that exist when you have estates geared around efficiency, and one of those is negligence and patient negligence as well. I'm not saying dentists are negligent or don't care about the patients, but it can very easily breed a system where that exists. I think dentistry in 5 years' time will be very different to the way it's practiced now, right? I think there'll be a big shift in terms of what occurs. We already see... Sorry?
In which way?
Yeah. So we already see it right now in the way the dentists are getting far more private. The volume of work carried out by private dentists compared to NHS dentists is increasing year on year, and we're also seeing more and more dental corporates come and switch more over to that private model. So in all honesty, I think dentistry in the NHS will reduce significantly to the point that it's more emergency cases and more, I guess, interventional cases, because it's clearly not a focus on prevention as of right now. And I think that there'll be more and more emergency, or I guess last minute work carried out on the NHS, unless that regular care given, over a long period of time. Of course, I have an external worldview. I'm not really dentist. I'm not really aware of the dialogue too much, but that's just my take on the whole situation right now. I think there'll be a big reducer step back in terms of actual quantity of care given on the NHS, because it just is a system which patients and dentists alike cannot reconcile with.
How do you think that system could be changed? Like, how can you reach the people who has the power?
That's a very good question, because I think dentistry as a proportion of the NHS budget is I think between 4 and 10%. I can't remember. I think we're maybe 4%. I don't want to quote that, but it's a very small fraction of the NHS budget. So to actually get your point across in Parliament, or in the whole government landscape is very, very difficult, because in all honesty, the NHS have got bigger things to worry about than dentistry, right? Or they have, I guess, more pressing matters at hand, which is, I guess, understandable when you've got people dying because of all these different issues and diseases and everything. It is, I could argue, more of a priority than dentistry. But it unfortunately means that we as dentists, or the dental profession, are given, unfortunately, a bit of a backseat in terms of that. And in all honesty, from what I've seen, it's very hard to get the dialogue across. We do have people in place, of course. You've got the Chief Dental Officer, Jason Wong, who's doing exceptional work in trying to bridge that gap. You've got people like Neil Carmichael, who's, helping to bring the voice of the dental groups more towards government as well. But I think, regardless of what you try to do, there will always be a difficulty in that, because of how it's a smaller proportion of the NHS budget. In all honesty, from my current perspective, I can't say there's a single way to do that. I think it's just a very difficult thing, and I think it's important to recognise it's difficult. But I don't really have a solution to that as of right now, in terms of how you can approach government and make them listen to you. Because I think in the government side, in all honesty, dentistry is not a priority right now, to be very frank. To try and get that across to someone who doesn't care is very hard,
Yeah. So what is your goal for 2025?
I think 2025 is a year of building. Set lots of structures in place in 2024, lots of networks, lots of, I guess, frameworks as well. For 2025, for 2024, the aim was to get into dental school, which worked out. Now the aim, to be honest, is just to find a better balance between dentistry, like the dental school, and the other things I'm trying to do outside of dental school as well. I think it will be a year of building businesses and building the business up as well, and probably starting, if it all goes well, one business and getting it to a significant level, to the point where I can hire people to do that for me, to work alongside me by the end of the year. So the primary aim is to balance dental school, make sure that's not neglected, and give a lot of importance to that, of course, because that is why I'm there. But also alongside that, probably start one venture and scale it to the level where I can outsource and delegate those tasks. And probably as of right now, will be the whole AI voice landscape, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, the main intentionality is to start up a new venture and scale it to a certain level.
If you could choose one person to work with, who would you choose?
In terms of working within the dentistry or business, or
in general,
anything?
Like, who do you admire in the world?
And is this bound by time now, or is it ever in history?
Well, let's start with now.
Okay, now. Okay.
To the listeners, we have not prepared the questions. So.
Yeah. To prove I'm in the hot seat and put in the spot. One person now.
Like natural talks.
Okay.
My favorite. Yeah. I don't like when it's prepared. So.
Yeah, it was too stiff for sure. I think Warren Buffett. He's still alive, so he's. You know Warren Buffett? Warren Buffett is a very big investor. One of the world's richest people. He's very, very interesting approach to investing. He's been in the stock market since the age of 13, 14, and now he's in his 90s, and he's got a company called Berkshire Hathaway, and they're valued at $1 billion. I respect him not because he's worth so much, but I respect him because of his approach and philosophy on investing. He preaches this way of investing called value investing. actually have a textbook right over there of that whole investment approach.
Following him, and I've heard, it's just the name I didn't remember.
Yeah. So he is someone I respect a lot because of what he's done in his life, and a massive respect to the way he's been so, I guess, true and loyal to his way of investing, even when markets went up and down, went through a lot of recession, market fluctuations. Despite all of that, he's been able to stay true to his belief system, which I think is very admirable. And staying true to what you are and what you believe in is a very strong part of, I think, being a good person. So him, in terms of now, if I were to go back there, if I were not to be bound by current time, there'd be two people I want to go to. Either Aristotle. I respect Aristotle's philosophy. I respect Aristotle's philosophy quite a lot. I read a lot of his works as well. And three people, sorry. So to Aristotle, maybe one person. Secondly, Prophet Muhammad. I'm of course a Muslim, so I have massive respect for him as well. He's the epitome of mankind, and I would like to see how he works as well. And thirdly, Genghis Khan, to understand how he, as someone who someone who is such a young person who was orphaned at the age of 12, or abandoned at the age of 9, was able to come in and conquer most of the world and form the largest contingent empire in history. I would love to see how his mind works and how he was able to strategize and build such a large, I guess, empire in the whole world. So those three people in the past, they're people I have a lot of respect for, and I think they've gone on to do incredible things. All four of them: Buffet, Aristotle, Prophet Muhammad, and then Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Christina? You asked me. Let me ask you now. Let me ask you.
I am also. My mother is from Greece, and
Okay.
I was also actually during my burnout. I came across Aristotle's philosophy, and I was just thinking, I wonder where he comes from, and it's just like few kilometers from where my mother lives. Yeah.
Really?
And I was like, oh. It has to be which is really close.
Yeah, wow, okay.
According to success, where are you from a scale 1 to 5 now?
Where am I from 1 to 5? I think to put a number on it is not worthwhile. I don't think I want to put a number on it. I think relative to what I want to do, I'd say 0.0001. But relative to what I am for now, if I'm happy with where I am right now, I'd say 10 out of 5. But I think to try and limit it in that way is not good. I think that it's always good to look to the future and appreciate what you have. I'm someone who is always talking about the next thing. So to me, I'm almost certain I will never be truly happy or truly successful in my metric. To me, you should always try and achieve an unattainable thing and enjoy the process to that thing itself. People say it's the journey at the destination. So I try to set lofty goals I think are almost unachievable, and learn to appreciate the journey towards that, right?
Yeah.
So
that's important. That's so important. So how do you remind yourself? Well, I guess the walks help yourself.
Reflection, I spend a lot of time thinking, a lot of time thinking. So, I mean, sometimes like 2-3 in the morning, I'm just sat there looking. So, just for some reference, Christina, I live in London, right? So I'm living in central London, of course, because of King's College London, right? So I am, the Shard. The Shard is the biggest building in the UK. The Shard, I see the Shard from my room or my kitchen, right? So I oftentimes sit at night time, turn the lights off, and just look at the Shard and think and ponder, about life and reflect in general as well. And that's why I think I can stay grounded and stay true to who I am and understand where my life is at, and I guess triangulate myself relative to where I want to be. If there are periods of sitting down in a room and reflecting that really spark or invoke that period of reflection, and it means I can stay true to who I am. So that to me is 100%. The walks and the sitting down and reflecting is why I can do this stuff.
Wow. Do you feel that your parents have inspired you
so much?
Yeah,
so much.
One of the things I realized, or I learned when I was going through my burnout, is most of the things are learned during the 7 first years of our childhood. Yeah,
100%. So, like I say, my parents were very good because in terms of like screen, for example, they wouldn't give me. I mean, at the time I didn't like it, but they wouldn't give me too many screens, to look at. That was good because it meant that I was more grounded. I was more present in the real world. At a young age, I did a whole range of hobbies. My parents pushed me to do karate, horse riding, tennis, table tennis, badminton, football, all these things that I guess ice skating that I guess most kids wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. And that meant that I was speaking to a load of people my age, lots of socializing, lots of getting myself out there as well and trying new things. And that's part of the reason I think I'm very entrepreneurial ambitious, because I have this mindset of doing all these things and trying out these new ideas. And that's because from a young age I was exposed to so much. As well as that, I think my parents were very, very good in the fact they kind of let me have some free reign when I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Like, I don't think most parents would let their kid, breed parrots in the garden. So that's an example of where they were very open and I guess kind to me in the fact that they let me do what I want to do. And that to me has been an insanely useful, or I guess a massively formative experience for me, having that flexibility and I guess trust in me that I can do what I want to do and figuring things out for myself as well. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's so important. And it's not easy. It's not easy being a parent and, for example, say no to mobiles today when they compare with their friends, etc. So they have done a great job. What would now the last question here? What would happen? I'm interested in this, and probably the listeners too. What would happen if somebody would say to you, "You know what? I give you $1 million right now, but you have to leave dental school."
Oh, I have to leave dental school. That's a rough one. I won't be too happy. I asked them why they're doing this to me. Why are they doing this to me?
I need you full time for our company.
Okay, so you mean what business would I start, or what initiative would I launch, or you mean how
for your dream job, like a bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I was going to answer the boring response, right? Like I would invest in the stock market, let it run, and leave it for be. But you said business as well, right? So, I think, like I said, so you're asking this. This is a kind of an indirect way of asking where is the next big thing in the industry, and where should you invest money towards, right? I think to me, what has a very big scope is software in the industry. So I would invest, or I would try to launch or scale a dental software business, right? I think there are already some great, exceptional companies that are doing this more recently. I used to work with a company called CareStack. Have you heard of CareStack? They're like a practice management software based out of the US. They're valued at $400 million, $300 million dollars, and a very big company. And they're coming more to the UK. So something like what they're doing is very, very good. I think they're trying to make it more analytical, more data-driven dentistry. And I would try to invest and push towards a similar type of thing, where I try to, I guess, bring more numbers and bring more statistics and standardize dental care across the board, right? Yeah. Someone else who's doing this very well is a guy called Dr. Robbie Hughes over in Liverpool with his whole same-day smile thing, where you can try and provide a simple, replicable, procedure across the country. And that, to me, is where I see the most need and most gap in dentistry, pushing towards data-driven, reproducible, and trackable dentistry. Because the way it's done right now is very ununiform, very irregular, and very unregulated as well. So to push towards that is, I think, a big thing. So whether that be like a note-taking application, or let's say maybe an AI receptionist, for example, or a software to help you manage your invoices, whatever, I think I would push and invest in something which makes the dental practice more optimized and more data-driven, for sure.
I totally agree. And it's actually, this podcast is sponsored by Smylor, who I collaborate with. Have you heard about Smylor?
No, I'm not. Please enlighten me.
Yeah, you will very soon, because they are working with exactly what you are speaking about.
Really? So, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, because they are Steve Pye. He's not a dentist, but he has been in businesses during his whole life. So he saw the same things that you're speaking about, like.
Awesome. It matches the then, eh? Good. I look forward to see. How do you spell it? Is it Smilo or Smylor?
Smylor. Smylor. Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah, so it has like different directions, but one of the directions is to automate the work in the clinic, to be able to, just like you said, to be able to structure things and measure things.
Awesome. I'm sure it'll be an amazing innovation.
And all the the things that can be optimized to optimize it, and having the chatbot, having a receptionist as an AI avatar, for example, of the receptionist who can answer the questions that the patients have.
Yeah, cool.
At the same time, as it's like the booking.com, so instead of searching for a clinic, you're searching for the treatment that you want to receive.
Very interesting. And it shows you all the options nearby, and you can go, oh, quite innovative.
Yeah, so yeah.
So one to watch for sure.
Sorry, you will be connected.
Awesome. I love to see. I'm sure they'll become a lot bigger in this space as well moving forward. So I can't wait to see what comes next.
Yeah.
I think as well, Christine, a lot of this innovation happens in the US, just a bit of a point, right? And they have a lot more investment in actual active pushing and propagation of these ideas, and then they come to the UK. So it's good to see someone breaking into the UK market quite early on, because a lot of the innovations you mentioned are already kind of commonplace in more the high-end clinics in the US, but not so much in the UK. So I think we need more of this. It's not a competition. It's very welcome, I think, to have this in the UK for sure.
Why do you think that dentistry has not gone as fast as possible?
So I think this is something which I thought about a great deal, actually. It's something which I identified quite early on. You look at optometry, you look at veterinary care, medicine, facial aesthetics as well. Far more innovation and advancement. I'm honestly not 100% sure. I think part of it comes from the dentistry's origin. Dentistry initially was, we see barber surgeons and this whole dark history, and medics looked down on dentists and they kind of thought things were better and all that stuff. I think a lot of that's remained because in the legislation and actual law, doctors are treated differently to dentists, and that means that they're given different level of importance. I think as well that a big part of it, Christine, is because the whole private equity or venture capital, I guess, corporate funding space views dentistry different to medicine in a way. I think that when you hear healthcare, people's minds go to medicine and medical innovation and medtech rather than dentistry, because it's kind of boring as teeth and people think there's not much innovation. So one of my missions, one of my aims is to help kind of change that mindset in the whole corporate finance space and bring more attention and eyes to dentistry and make them understand that there's lots of opportunity here and a big room for innovation in dentistry as well. So I think it's changing that mindset and attitude from the investors and backers, but also changing the mind of entrepreneurs, like you said, this founder of Smylor, who's not a dentist, but saw the opportunity there, and making people who have this creative mind and I guess fresh way of looking at things look at dentistry with some more respect and some more, I guess, attention as well.
I agree. And that's why I like to speak also with people outside dentistry to see another perspective, another mindset.
So true.
I think, dentists, we are speaking with other dentists. We're in
a bubble. Yeah.
A bubble. And also we know that stress, if we don't balance it like you can do, stress makes us stupid. Too much. You just like you said, when it was too much in your life, in your studies,
you
couldn't enter anymore. It's like having all these tabs, pages open in your computer. You can't get any more things in. So the balance is crucial. I'm
so key.
So grateful for your time, and I and all the listeners, we are sure that you will have such a success with everything you are doing. Just also because of numeral things. You have laser focus on what you want. You have your vision. Meanwhile, you have the balance. Because when I spoke to you the first time, and when I see all the things you're doing, the first thing that came to my mind is, oh my God, he will go through burnout, but with the and the self-awareness that you have, you will not have it. It could be that you feel the symptoms. The important thing is to notice the symptoms. This is an advice I will give you. Notice the symptoms. When you start to feel that you get slow or you start to get negative, we all have different symptoms when it comes to burnout. But you already mentioned, for example, that it was that you felt that you couldn't receive anything more. And that's a sign that it has gone already too far. So your body started to get physical signs.
For sure.
But I'm so happy to hear about you, and I'm looking forward to speak with you in a year to hear.
Well, crazy things have happened since then. Yeah, likewise, Christina. It's been a pleasure coming on. Thank you very much for the platform, and hope all people listening out there found some value from the conversation.
Thank you. What is the final words you want to say to our listeners?
I think the final thing is to take a step back, realize what you really want, or what your real why is. Simon Sinek, to start with why, understand your will, and try to unify with action. I urge everyone to unify will and agency together, and magical things will happen. That's just my main takeaway. If you can do that, then everything else follows, I think.
Oh my God. Woo! Amen. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you
so
much. And see you in a year, and we keep in contact.
Sure thing. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, Afeef here. I hope you had as much fun watching that episode as I did recording it. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn at Afeef Hadi. That's AFEEF space HADI. Also, check out my Instagram at afeef.hadi_. Lastly, if you're a young dentist or a future dentist, make sure to follow us at the Young Dentist podcast across all socials. See you there.
I wish I had a Smylor when I had my dental practice. It removes so much stress from the dental team, handling online bookings, patient questions with a chatbot, pre- and post-treatment automations, and even offering a marketplace for dental treatments. Smylor isn't just a sponsor, it's a solution. That's why I love working with them, because they take dental teams from stress to success. If this episode helped you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment, and subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but to help more dental professionals go from stress to success. Your support means the world. See you next time.